Dinosaurs have always captured our imagination with their massive sizes and mysterious lifestyles. When you think about them, it's easy to picture towering creatures like the long-necked Brachiosaurus or the fearsome Tyrannosaurus rex, all roaming the earth millions of years ago. These ancient giants didn't just impress us with their size, they also had incredibly long lives. But which one lived the longest? That's the question we're going to dive into today. To start, we need to look at how we figure out the lifespan of dinosaurs. Unlike modern animals, we can't just track them and count the years. Instead, scientists rely on fossil records to piece together a rough idea of how long different species may have lived. Fossils can reveal a lot about a dinosaur's age at the time of death, but it's still a tough task. Some fossils are better preserved than others, and sometimes we'd only have bits and pieces to work with, making the whole process a bit like solving a puzzle. There's also the challenge of how to define what we mean by longest lived. Are we talking about the average lifespan of a species, or the oldest individual ever recorded? Most dinosaurs had a pretty wide range in how long they lived, depending on their size, diet, and environment. Smaller dinosaurs like Compsognathus likely didn't live very long, while the bigger species, like sauropods, lived much longer lives. In this video, we're going to focus on those massive creatures and see which ones could have lived the longest. One group of dinosaurs that were particularly long-lived were the sauropods. These long-necked, plant-eating dinosaurs lived during the Mesozoic era, particularly in the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods. The biggest of them all, like Argentinosaurus, weighed as much as 70 tons and could grow to over 100 feet long. Despite their size, scientists believe some of these giants could have lived for up to 100 years or more. That's an incredibly long time for a creature of such massive proportions, and it's a key reason why sauropods are often considered the longest-lived dinosaurs. Another factor that influenced how long some dinosaurs lived was their growth rate. In general, larger animals tend to have slower growth rates, which can contribute to longer lifespans. For example, the Brachiosaurus, a close relative to the Argentinosaurus, also had a slower growth rate and a longer life. Some scientists even suggest that these dinosaurs may have lived longer than the smaller species because of their slow metabolism and steady pace of growth, allowing them to reach impressive sizes over their lifetimes. But even among these giants, there are many different species with their own unique traits and lifespans. For instance, the Stegosaurus, with its spiky tail and large plates along its back, had a completely different lifestyle and lifespan compared to its long-necked cousins. While we don't have exact numbers for all species, it's likely that the Stegosaurus lived a bit shorter life than the sauropods, given its smaller size and quicker growth rate. In the next part of our journey, we'll take a closer look at another group of ancient giants, the massive prehistoric mammals that roamed the earth after the dinosaurs. These creatures, like woolly mammoths and giant ground sloths, also had impressive lifespans, and their existence in the Ice Age adds an interesting layer to our search for the longest-lived creature. So, stick with me as we uncover more about these remarkable ancient beings. As we continue our exploration of ancient giants, we shift our focus from the towering dinosaurs to another group of massive creatures, the prehistoric mammals that roamed the earth long after the dinosaurs were gone. While dinosaurs ruled the land during the Mesozoic era, the mammals took over in the following ages. These creatures, from woolly mammoths to giant ground sloths, also had remarkable lifespans, and some could live much longer than you'd expect for animals of their size. Let's begin with the woolly mammoth, one of the most well-known creatures from the Ice Age. These massive mammals were closely related to today's elephants. They were covered in thick fur, had long curved tusks, and were built to survive in the harsh, cold climates. Woolly mammoths lived in northern regions, where they adapted to the freezing temperatures by growing large amounts of fur and having a thick layer of fat to keep them warm. Scientists estimate that woolly mammoths lived for around 60 to 80 years, which is impressive considering their size. Just like today's elephants, they grew slowly and had long lives, but the cold environments they lived in posed unique challenges. Despite that, these giants thrived for thousands of years, roaming vast landscapes in herds and leaving behind fossilized remains that help scientists understand their lifestyles. Their ability to survive in such extreme conditions shows just how resilient these creatures were. Another giant from the Ice Age was the giant ground sloth, which lived in North and South America during the Pleistocene epoch. These enormous sloths were far bigger than the ones we see today, reaching lengths of up to 20 feet, and their size made them one of the most unique creatures of their time. These sloths were herbivores, and likely fed on the leaves of tall trees, moving slowly across the land in search of food. Their slow movements were part of what made them so special, and it's believed that they lived long lives, although estimating their exact lifespan is more difficult due to the lack of detailed fossil records. Some estimates suggest that the giant ground sloths lived for around 30 to 40 years, which, while shorter than the woolly mammoth, still shows that these creatures had time to grow and thrive in their environment. The giant ground sloth is also thought to have been a relatively solitary animal, which means that, like many large animals, it didn't have the same social structures that might have influenced its lifespan. However, it was well adapted to its environment, with strong claws and a robust body that allowed it to survive for many decades. Then we have the Irish elk, a massive herbivorous mammal that roamed parts of Europe and Asia during the Pleistocene epoch. Known for its enormous antlers, which could span up to 12 feet from tip to tip, the Irish elk was another giant that lived for several decades. It's believed that the average lifespan of the Irish elk was around 30 to 40 years, similar to that of the giant ground sloth. Despite their size and impressive antlers, these creatures were herbivores feeding on vegetation in the grasslands and forests. Their size and impressive features made them one of the most fascinating animals of the Ice Age. Now, while these ancient mammals had their own remarkable lifespans, it's important to note that the largest mammals of all, whales, also have impressive lifespans that are much longer than those of the woolly mammoth, giant ground sloth, or Irish elk. The bowhead whale, for example, can live for up to 245 years, making it one of the longest living animals on Earth. While the bowhead whale isn't strictly from the same time period as these ancient mammals, it's important to mention it because it highlights the fascinating range of lifespans among massive creatures. Even in today's world, the bowhead whale continues to live for centuries, adapting to changing oceans and environments, showing just how extraordinary some ancient giants can be. In our next part, we'll dive deeper into the bowhead whale and its remarkable longevity. We'll explore how this creature has lived for centuries, and how it compares to other ancient giants, including dinosaurs. Stay with me as we continue to uncover the secrets of these incredible creatures and their long lives, as we shift gears from the ancient mammals to the towering world of the dinosaurs. We step into an era that stretched across millions of years. Dinosaurs, with their incredible variety and size, are some of the most fascinating creatures to ever walk the earth. But when it comes to determining which of these giants had the longest lifespan, there's more than meets the eye. The first group of dinosaurs that comes to mind when we think about longevity are the sauropods. These long-necked, plant-eating giants dominated the landscape during the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods. They could grow to sizes unimaginable to modern animals, with some reaching lengths of up to 100 feet or more. Some of the most famous sauropods include Argentinosaurus, Brachiosaurus, and Apatosaurus. Argentinosaurus, one of the largest sauropods ever discovered, is thought to have lived for an impressive amount of time. Scientists believe that these massive creatures could have lived for up to 100 years. With their long necks, they were able to reach the treetops to feed on vegetation and could grow incredibly large. But their size wasn't the only thing that set them apart. Sauropods had slower metabolisms, which likely contributed to their long lifespans. This slower growth rate allowed them to take their time developing into the enormous creatures they became. Not only did these sauropods live for decades, but they were also incredibly resilient. Their slow growth may have been a factor in their longevity, as they did not need to rush through life to reach their adult sizes. Over the course of their lives, these giants experienced massive changes in their environments, from shifts in the Earth's continents to changes in climate. Despite this, they were able to thrive for such a long period, showing just how adaptable they were. But sauropods weren't the only dinosaurs that lived long lives. There's also evidence suggesting that some theropod dinosaurs, like the famous Tyrannosaurus rex, may have had relatively long lifespans for their size. The T-Rex, which lived during the late Cretaceous period, could have lived for up to 30 years or more. While this might seem short compared to the lifespan of a sauropod, it's still impressive for such a large predator. The T-Rex had a complex social structure and hunting strategies which likely influenced how long it lived. However, the T-Rex was not the only predatory dinosaur with a lengthy life. Other theropods like the Velociraptor had shorter lifespans, but they were still remarkable for their time. Interestingly, there are a number of factors that influence how long dinosaurs lived, and many of these factors still remain a mystery to scientists. Was it their size that helped them live longer, or was it their environment? Did some species have faster metabolisms that led to shorter lives, or did they have slower metabolisms like the sauropods that helped them live for decades? The truth is, it's likely a combination of factors, from diet and environmental changes to genetics and behavior. One of the key challenges in determining the lifespan of dinosaurs is the limited fossil record. While we have an impressive number of fossils, many species are still waiting to be discovered, and the evidence we have doesn't always give us the full picture. It's also tough to estimate the lifespan of a dinosaur based solely on bones, as there are many factors at play. However, scientists have been able to use growth rings in bones and teeth to help estimate the age of these creatures. This method allows paleontologists to get a clearer idea of how long certain dinosaurs may have lived and how they grew over time. As we continue to explore the world of these prehistoric giants, we'll start to see how the environment and the dinosaurs themselves played a role in their lifespans. It's clear that, like modern animals, dinosaurs had to adapt to survive. Whether they lived in lush forests, open plains, or near water sources, each environment offered its own challenges and rewards for these ancient creatures. Some dinosaurs may have faced constant threats from predators or changing climates, while others may have had more stable environments that allowed them to grow old and thrive. So, which dinosaur lived the longest? Based on what we know about sauropods and other large dinosaurs, the answer might surprise you. As we continue our journey, we'll discover the species that likely held the title of the longest-lived dinosaur. But before we get to that, let's take a moment to think about how scientists continue to uncover new details about these fascinating creatures. Through ongoing research, new discoveries, and advances in technology, we're constantly learning more about the lives of these ancient giants. Stay tuned as we wrap up our search for the dinosaur that lived the longest. As we near the end of our journey into the world of ancient giants, it's time to focus on what we've learned and uncover which species of dinosaur might have lived the longest. While it's still a challenge to pinpoint the exact dinosaur that held the title, scientists have narrowed it down by looking at different factors like fossil evidence and growth patterns. From the towering sauropods to the powerful theropods, each dinosaur had its own unique life story, but there is one that stands out for its longevity. The species that likely holds the crown for the longest-lived dinosaur is the Spinosaurus. While it may not be as well known as the towering Argentinosaurus, the Spinosaurus is part of a group of sauropods that scientists have been studying for years. This dinosaur is believed to have lived for around 75 to 80 years, which is significant considering its size and the challenges it faced. Like many sauropods, the Spinosaurus had a slower growth rate, which would have contributed to its long life. These dinosaurs took their time to grow, reaching maturity at a much older age than smaller species, and their slow metabolism allowed them to survive in a world full of predators and environmental changes. What makes the Spinosaurus particularly interesting is how it navigated through the changing landscapes of the late Jurassic period. It lived in what is now China, where the environment was full of dense forests, lakes, and rivers. The Spinosaurus was a herbivore, feeding on the abundant plant life, which likely contributed to its longevity. With its long neck, it could reach high branches and consume a wide variety of vegetation, giving it the resources needed to thrive. The Spinosaurus wasn't just a survivor, it was a master of its environment, capable of living a long life despite the challenges it faced. But the Spinosaurus isn't the only dinosaur that lived a long life. Another contender for the longest-lived dinosaur title is the Apatosaurus, another sauropod that roamed North America during the late Jurassic period. The Apatosaurus was similar in size and lifestyle to the Spinosaurus, but scientists believe it could have lived for up to 70 years. The Apatosaurus was an herbivore that thrived in the lush wooded environments of what is now the western United States. This dinosaur was well adapted to its surroundings and had the necessary traits to survive for decades, from its powerful legs to its long neck, which helped it reach high vegetation. While sauropods like the Spinosaurus and Apatosaurus were certainly some of the longest-lived dinosaurs, it's important to note that other factors such as the environment and diet could have influenced their longevity. For instance, the Triceratops, a horned herbivorous dinosaur, is thought to have lived for around 30 years, which, while shorter than the sauropods, is still a relatively long life for a dinosaur of its size. The Triceratops had to deal with the constant threat of predators like the Tyrannosaurus rex, which likely shortened its life expectancy. Yet, its ability to defend itself with its large horns and frill helped it survive in the dangerous Cretaceous period. One thing is certain, the lifespan of a dinosaur was determined by a complex mix of factors, including its size, environment, and the threats it faced. The longest-lived dinosaurs, like the Spinosaurus and Apatosaurus, were well adapted to their ecosystems, where they could take their time growing and thriving. While it's hard to say with absolute certainty which dinosaur lived the longest, the evidence suggests that these giants had the longevity to rival many modern animals. Our understanding of dinosaur lifespans continues to evolve as scientists make new discoveries and advancements in technology. The use of new techniques like studying growth rings in bones and examining fossilized teeth has provided us with more accurate estimates of how long these creatures lived. With each new finding, we're able to piece together more of the puzzle of ancient life, revealing just how remarkable these creatures were. In the end, whether it's the slow-growing sauropods or the resilient herbivores like the Triceratops, dinosaurs lived for much longer than we once thought. The Spinosaurus, with its 75 to 80-year lifespan, stands out as the longest-lived dinosaur we know of today, but there may still be more to discover. As scientists continue to explore the fossil record, we may uncover new species with even longer lifespans. Until then, the giants of the Mesozoic era will remain an awe-inspiring reminder of just how incredible life on Earth can be. So, which dinosaur do you think had the longest life? Do you think there are others out there that might rival the Spinosaurus or Apatosaurus? Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you'd like to dive deeper into the world of dinosaurs, don't forget to subscribe for more amazing facts and discoveries.